morning to everybody. My name is Glenn Ebersole. I am the Strategic Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for Hollenbach Construction. I also would like to thank MABX for having me today as a presenter. Couldn't help but think after watching that Hans video, it seemed to me that what I got out of that is it was a depiction of how our government works. The structure that you saw, or the lack thereof, and people moving in all different directions. That's what I saw. I had a very long trip to get here, even longer than Christine. It was actually 13 blocks. I could have actually walked here this morning. My background is that when I graduated from Penn State, I went into government. From government, I went into the private sector. I started out mainly in horizontal construction and then moved to vertical construction. Through all of that, there was so much opportunity to use a much more strategic approach to what I was doing, what our team was doing, or what the firm was doing. So what I wanted to do today was give an overview of how technology can seriously enhance what we can do with the design build. Also, since I learned from Christine about the bullets, I used bullets intentionally because I want to kill the prejudice against a design build and an integrated project delivery system. So I didn't know that was why I did it, but now I do. One of the things that I did early in my career was spent time always working for the owners. I got into learning what their mindset is. What is most important to owners when they're thinking about a facilities project? My thought is, one, they're looking for improved decision-making processes. In the past, before we had technologies, we couldn't have as many iterations, we couldn't have as many different concepts, and the speed of things was greatly stretched out. So they were looking for, how can I make an informed, educated, and a more strategic decision? The answer to that really is through technology. And you saw on the presentation by Prinestat just some examples of how technology is being used for that purpose. Contract documentation. This has been a real struggle over the years, especially when it comes time to what you actually produced, the as-built drawings. With technology now, and with some of the things that were presented here on the screen earlier, we can keep right up to date with changes and these notations that can be made and all the documentation that can be done really with a couple clicks. That is going to greatly improve the contract documentation. Pre-construction estimating. Before, when so much work was done by hand, on paper, it took so long to pull these things together. Now we have many technology tools that allows us to do a more accurate form of estimating and do several iterations. And in design build, typically there may be a budget pricing at first that might be based on square footage. You get to conceptual drawings, you may do another estimate, until you get up to maybe 65%, 70% complete drawings, when you start really honing in on the actual quantities to produce your estimate. Improved procurement and scheduling. All the different techniques of scheduling that have been developed a long time ago. Now, with technology, you can make so many changes, or it's much easier to use the technology to say, if I change this particular task, or if I move this milepost, what does that do to the rest of the schedule? So instead of looking at making a change in one single unit, it's how I'm going to impact the overall schedule by one change. In the same way with procurement. With having databases of materials available to you technologically, you can have a lot more resources, a lot more sources of information, materials, equipment, and so forth, that you can certainly improve that procurement, getting several different bids for some of the materials. Improved coordination. Before we had cell phones, before we had PCs and the other technology, coordination a lot of times relative to people, when it was a very big challenge. Now, with the integration of technologies that we have, where our emails can come to our smartphones, and we have other things that we heard earlier about what can be sent to your iPad or notebook or whatever, this has greatly increased the coordination. And from a coordination of the design standpoint too, with the BIM, that many kinds of conflicts are a bit easier to at least identify. They may not be easier to fix, but they're easier to identify. Cost efficiencies, the same way. If we can be more productive, if we can do a better job of scheduling, estimating, having more sources to procure material, it's going to improve the efficiency. And then lastly, improved closeout documents when the job is done. I can think back of before we had the PC, and how many people, if you've been around long enough, remember people just typing, cutting, and pasting, which now we do on a screen. It took an inordinate amount of time to do that. So when I say design build, I'm talking about an integrated approach to align the interests, objectives, and practices through a collaborative, very operative word, collaborative team effort. I'll give you one. We are now constructing a world headquarters building for a company that works on 6 continents and 40 countries. They are a very high-tech company. We worked very directly with the owners of the company, with the employees and their leadership team of the company, our folks on the construction end, the architect, and the engineering folks. Very collaborative from day one. When something started going too far adrift, we had a chance to bring it back. Rather than producing something, getting a cost and finding out this is way beyond our budget. The collaboration is really, really important. The next thing I point out is the collaborative software, which again, we've heard some of that, and we'll probably hear more of that today. When I heard the speaker mention about meetings in a job trailer, I can think back when the fax machines first came out, and you could actually fax something to the job site. And this was huge, rather than having somebody have to deliver it. By having something where they've taken a photograph and it comes back, where the photograph might be at a site that's miles and miles away, but it's coming back into the office, or it's at the office, at the job site, and other places, they're all looking at the same thing at the same time, in real time. And with the technology that allows them to make notations, capture those notations, and document them. That is huge for documentation, communications, the drawings, forms, data, much larger abilities, if you will, to coordinate those things.